IPMNation.com.
All Natural Being. Warning, All Natural Being with Brawdy is designed to shake your sense of self to the core.
It's full contact psychology with an empowering twist, a philosophical loofah for your soul.
For those of you not ready or comfortable releasing your inner superhuman, listener discretion is advised.
Here's your host,
Brawdy.
Good morning and welcome to All Natural Being. It's Brian. And as you can probably tell, we're in a different setup this morning than we normally are. So let me apologize in advance for both the audio, either the quality or the difference of what you become accustomed to this morning, and also to let you know, and a little bit of an apology as well, that the show you're listening to this morning, I had to tape a couple hours earlier. You know how much I love having All Natural Being be a live show. But what happened is late yesterday evening, I was called out to do a commercial. And I know now, and I knew then, at the time that you're listening to this today at 11 a.m. Eastern, I will be on set recording that commercial. So I didn't want to have to put up an older show. So what I'm going to do is, on way to the set this morning, I thought we could record the show together. Kind of, you can do the drive time, the travel time with me, and then we'll have at least a brand new All Natural Being by the time you're listening in. So please, in advance, accept my apologies for the audio quality. I'm in a car, right? So there's only so much I could do about it. And also accept my apology because I really like these to be live shows. You're still welcome to text me, 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL. I'll probably have the ringer off during the shoot, but I will respond back as soon as I get off the set to any questions, any critiques, and I'm all over. I'm all over being slammed. Doesn't matter. So whatever you'd like to share with me as it pertains to this morning show, just give me the text, 331-684-7685. And as you know now, that's SOUL. Thank you for hanging out with me this morning in this somewhat, admittedly, stranger version of All Natural Being. And I also want to thank you for continuing to make us the number one show here on IPM Nation. The number one show, I think, we hold that status because this truly is a show about you, the real you. And I think that's why, since its launch, we've kept the number one slot, because I want this show, I don't want it to be motivational. I don't want you to. I look at motivation as something you need when you've forgotten who you are. Once you remember who you are, the last thing you need is motivation. It's like throwing gasoline on a fire. I hope this show inspires you to remember who you already are. No more becoming, simply being. And that's why I think the show is doing so well, is that I think intuitively we all sense that we've always had everything we've ever needed. We've always had it. Now it's time to tap it. And I will tell you that I believe that the future will be run by those who understand timing. And that the timing that I'm talking about for happiness, fulfillment, and success, that type of timing, it's never down the road. It's always under our feet right now. So, as the kindred, I say all the time, as the rare breed, as the top 1% of cutting-edge cognitions, of the part of the elite that have decided, you know what, I'm not going to be knocked off my foundation. I'm not going to be called out of the moment. I know exactly what it is that I need in order to be able to thrive in this life. I know how to bring my A game in the labyrinth of life. I know how to win in the garden of the mortals. So I thank you for making me a part of that, making me your tag team partner, making me, the guy right there as you get ready to go in, cut the crap, and get your great back out. So thank you again so much for everything you've done to keep us in this number one slot, and to know that that's the best way of putting it. My goal every day is to champion you, the real you, the true you, the authentic you. Not some future you, not what you might become. I'm here today to champion who you are right now, in this instant, in all of time. Which is why, for the anaerobic aphorism that I throw up, as you know, each day over on Facebook, when I put up the anaerobic aphorism, I was just drawn by looking around and listening to some of the emails, some of the texts, some of the things that I see online where people talk about mediocrity. And because I truly believe that your brain wasn't built for the bush league. It just wasn't. So I wanted today to be able to kind of discuss this 3 strategies for living a mediocre life. Because if you want to live a mediocre life, chances are pretty good this show isn't for you. But if you decide to live a mediocre life, well, I would like you to have the 3 strategies that you'll need in order to be able to do that. Strategy number 1, embrace the rat race. Dig the hamster life, right? Just be comfortable. If you're going to be mediocre, at least let's be comfortable with the concept that our minds are built for the treadmill. There's a point A, there's a point B, and we're happy being couch potatoes doing what we got to do to get from A to B. So embrace the rat race. It's one of the strategies you can use to have a mediocre life. Number 2, sell yourself short. Constantly bet against yourself. In every situation, just go, I can't handle that. I can't do that. I can't withstand that. I can't beat back the onslaught. It's not in me. I don't have what it takes. That's a great strategy for living the mediocre life, is to sell yourself short. Is to think, there's no way I can pull that off. And then number 3, constantly pass the buck. If you're comfortable with your brain, the concept of your brain having been built for the bush league, pass the buck. Whenever anything happens, always blame your circumstances, your surroundings, other people, your satellites in life, other people moving in and around you. Always blame them. Pass the buck. Guarantee that you then will live a mediocre life. So for those interested in those strategies, embrace the rat race. Sell yourself short and always pass the buck. Now, the inverse of that is that don't fall for the rat race. Because if you want a strategy for a mediocre life, sometimes it's best to develop a strategy about what you don't want. Because then you got a great litmus test. You can look at it and go, that's not what I want. So then it tells you exactly what not to do. So if you don't want to live a mediocre life, and I suspect that's a part of who you are, as I am, I'm digging the cusp of greatness. I'm digging what I can do every single day to make sure that I'm going in and getting my grade out. So we could do the opposite of this. Don't embrace the rat race. Don't fall for the carrot at the end of the stick mindset. Don't fall for the treadmill. Realize that life in the labyrinth is an impromptu adventure, something about to happen. Always be on the lookout. The potpourri that's presented to us in each and every moment. The fine-grained fingerprints of providence. If we just have the peripheral vision to be able to see them, open to them, the clarity to be able to see them, to be able to detect them, and then realize how we're going to use those fingerprints of providence right now in the labyrinth. And then the third, the inverse of what you could do instead of passing the buck is go, no matter what hits, I'm in. In some way, shape, or form, whatever's befallen me, I've put myself in this situation. I'm leaving myself open to feel what's happening right now. And then to know that no matter what happens, I'm going to thrive. You hear me say all the time about thy will be done, or the Tao follows its own path. Well, that's in fact true. Though right after that, it's incumbent upon you and I to go, all right, now it's my turn. Thy will be done, but now it's my turn. The Tao follows its own path, good on you, but now it's my turn. Right? Whatever fate does, we say, great, nice move. Yeah, that was a good one there. But now, it's my turn. And if we end every situation by saying just that, and now it's my turn, we find that there's not much that fate can do to us. And that's what I'd like to cover in this morning's show, in the 45 plus minutes that we have left. But before I go down that rabbit hole, I wanted to share a little bit of a personal story, if that's okay with you. A lot of people have been asking of late about my transition from outdoor adventure to emergency to preparedness, which, if you're not familiar with some of the work that I've done in the past, some of the TV, some of the different shows that I've done, some of the different television commercials, some of the radio spots that I've done, I started out in terms of adventure, exploration, encouraging people to find the exotic. I think early on in my years in television, my career, I started with the tagline of finding adventure in your own backyard, which is just my way of saying the exotic is wherever you are. If it's new to you, it's an adventure. Doesn't matter that other people have walked on the moon. Doesn't matter that other people have sailed around the world. Doesn't matter all these things. If it's new to you, it's an adventure. And when you embrace the impromptu of it, when you embrace the impromptu itineraries that bubble up in the moment, that's a life of thrill. That's a life of mystery and of magic. So shortly after that, I was exposed to something, and this week is the 11th anniversary of that exposure. I responded. It was a reporter, a television reporter at the time, and I took a couple weeks to respond to the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. I wanted to go down. I found a local organization that was working to pass out food and water to people that had been adversely affected by Hurricane Katrina. As a matter of fact, I've got a couple cool pictures I'll throw up on Facebook. Brian Brawdy Official. I'll put them up on the Brian Brawdy page a little later this morning. So to give you an idea, I actually have a picture from NOAA of Hurricane Katrina right before it made landfall. So I went from outdoor adventure because Hurricane Katrina changed my mind, personally changed my mind about what it meant to be prepared. Now, if you've watched any of the television segments I've done, a lot of the preppers, people called preppers, urban preppers or the like, they're not huge fans of mine because I try to downplay some of the craziness that surrounds being prepared. As a matter of fact, I say all the time, well, let me ask you, do you buy automobile insurance? Do you have automobile insurance? All right, then you're a prepper. Do you have a savings account? Or maybe invest in children or grandchildren or nieces and nephews? Do you invest in a college fund? Do you invest in a retirement program? You do? Well, then you, like me, you're a prepper. Do you put your seatbelt on when you hop in a car? And then, like me, you're a prepper. I got to tell you, the seatbelt thing is tough for me still to this day. Because as a patrolman, I never wore a seatbelt. I was always ready to jump out of the car whenever I could. So having been trained officially at a young age of driving a car that was always a police car, the seatbelt thing still just is tough for me. But in any event, when I get in, click in my seatbelt, I'm a prepper. But Hurricane Katrina changed me. And it changed me not just because of the lack of physical preparation, but when that wall of water came through, it did so much more than just destroy people's property. What I witnessed in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina was, in some situations, the absolute sense of human defeat, where people were just giving up on themselves. And that was the beginning, 11 years ago this week, not just of saying, I want to be physically prepared, what I'm going to do for food, what I'm going to do for water, what am I going to do for electricity, what I'm going to do for these things. But it was also the beginning of me realizing that I wanted to be able to prepare for whatever fate would throw at me. That no matter what, I was going to be ready. I wasn't going to sell myself short. I was going to accept responsibility. That in that moment, what could I do to make a difference? Not just in my own life. A lot of times that's easy. But what could I do to make a difference in the lives of the people around me? As a part of that strategy. And that was born 11 years ago this week, because I wanted to have a plan. If you've seen any of the television commercials, what's some of the taglines? Why face your next emergency on an empty stomach? Do you have a plan? Do you have something that you can fall back on? You've probably heard me say, when you can't call on anyone else, can you call on yourself? And that was the beginning of all natural being in my mind. That was the beginning of realizing that in this day and age, if you're waiting for someone to ride in on a horse and save you, you're back in the wrong pony. So my investigation investigation. My investigation began with my father's suicide, and years later would be reaffirmed and redirected by this concept and this question. When you can't call on anyone else, can you call on yourself? And when you're able to answer that question affirmatively, which is why I so much enjoy time in nature, because you're not at the top of the food chain. And you realize very quickly on that nature, like fate, does gun for you. Which was my first real run-in with self-help industry tactics, to be honest, and self-help industry tacticians. Oh, nature loves you. No, it doesn't, right? Fate's job, like nature's, is to knock you off, is to shake you off like a dog shaking off fleas. And people go, Bri, that's so brute. That's so morbid. I would offer to you that it's the exact opposite of brute or morbid. That life, that fate, doing what it can to derail us from our destiny, is the blessing that so many of us are missing in our lives. It's the magic that so many of us are void. Because we look at challenges as something to be avoided, as opposed to something to say, I've got a strategy. I know exactly how I'm going to handle this situation. I know exactly what I'm prepared to do at every turn in the labyrinth. How I'll use both my virtues and my vices for the lefts and rights, the ups, the downs, the pivots, the swerves. No dead ends, only cul-de-sacs here in the labyrinth of life. Here in the garden of the mortals, I know exactly what I need to do to go in, cut the crap, and get my grade out. And that was born in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. Some of the humanity that I witnessed, this is the flip side of other people feeling that they had been defeated. Some of the humanity that I witnessed in the absolute aftermath of that. And I've seen it in the aftermath of tornadoes that I've responded to. I've seen it in the aftermath of natural disasters of all types, where there are those humans that just rise. Now, I know that's a popular word today, rise. Everyone's going to rise. But these humans, having fate draw a line in the sand for them, having, what does Dante say at the gates? Enter ye here, all hope is lost. With all hope is lost, I met humans that rose to the challenge, that channeled their all-natural being, that said to fate, that's all you brought, because you will not win. You will not beat me. And that's the lesson that I took away. The spiritual lesson, the human lesson, the personal lesson that I took away. And maybe it's a lot like the book of Job, if you're familiar with the book of Job, God. And again, remember that this is, you could use this sacredly or you could use it scientifically. Big bang, big breath, however you define the divine. But the story of Job is one that spans the debate between religion and science. Because whether you believe it's God or gravity, whether you believe it's Satan or fate, the book of Job says, you got a life going on, you're here in the garden of the mortals, and there's just going to be stuff that conspires against you. There are going to be those times where the caca hits the fan. So the book of Job is a great one to go, no, thank you, sir, may I have another? Again, channeling our inner Kevin Bacon from Animal House. Thank you, sir, may I have another? Schmack! Thank you, sir, may I have another? Not the rat race. Not the people running around going, oh, why me? Why me? Why me? Not the people selling themselves short going, oh, as I saw in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, I don't have a house, I don't have electricity, I have no food, I have no water, I have no ability to communicate with the outside world. But they had their all-natural being. And the handful of people that I met that were like that were unstoppable, and you could feel it. You could feel it in their presence. You could see it in their eyes. You could hear it in their smiles. So I thought that would be kind of fitting to give you an idea of when when we talk about the craziness, right? That is Brian. Where was that cultivated? Because I had on one hand my father, who at some stage in his life decided, I'm just going to pack it in. And at the other end of the spectrum that I was blessed to be enveloped in, that at one end, at the other end were people where everything had been taken from them, except their understanding of their all-natural being. And that's when they rose to the challenge that was the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. That's when they rose to the challenge. Some of the tornadoes that I've visited, you see the looks on people's faces. You can see it in their eyes. They wear their spine on their sleeve, and you can tell who are the ones that channel their all-natural being. So that's kind of what I'd like to be able to focus on this morning. Again, let's get through the anaerobic aphorism. 3 strategies for living a mediocre life. Because I don't believe your brain was put here to be bush league. I don't believe that about you. And that's why I champion you each and every opportunity that I have a chance. Because if you're not living like that right now, you got a little bit of amnesia. You've just forgotten who you are. You're not defective in any way. You're not lacking anything, maybe other than just a little bit of memory. A few blind spots that keep you from seeing that. But the 3 strategies for living a mediocre life: embrace the rat race, sell yourself short, always bet against yourself, call it a draw at every turn, and then pass the buck. Blame the circumstances, blame your surroundings, blame yourself. No compassion, no self-compassion. Blame yourself for everything that's going wrong. I'm simply saying, don't embrace the rat race. Never sell yourself short. And always accept the buck. Never pass it. All right. So normally at this point you'd hear, our little ditties, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. But I'm ditty free this morning, ditty and commercial free, just so you know, because if you're just tuning in, got a call to do early morning television commercial this morning, and I didn't want to repost something that we have done in the past, so I'm trying something a little new. I have a smartphone, a portable phone, iPhone, and a recording software. And what I'm going to try to do is do the show while I'm going to the studio. And then I'll throw it back to Matt at IPM Nation. Matt will go ahead and rebroadcast it for me, package it up, put it. So if you're listening this morning, if you're listening right now, it's a little bit after 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Know that I'm on set recording this commercial. I'll be thinking about you all in between takes. I'll be thinking about you all. And again, let me apologize for the audio quality. And let me also apologize that it's a tape show, because I really do dig having these live. Don't forget, you can still reach out to me, 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL. You can hit me up, allnaturalbeing.com, allnaturalbeing.com. Leave me your email. I'll trade you mine. We can connect that way. And, of course, Brian Brawdy Official. Brian Brawdy Official. I don't know where the Brian Brawdy unofficial page is, but over at Facebook, you can track me down at Brian Brawdy Official, and we can connect that way as well. So, let's look at something that's kind of been... If you ever have those things, let me ask you. You ever those kind of things that just kind of grate on your nerves a little bit? You're going through the day and you're like, not that again. And that was one of the things I got this morning. I got an email as I was getting dressed and ready to get out the door, checking my emails. I got an email saying, "Are you interested in Nirvana?" Oh, I thought it was a pitch for the rock band. Right? I thought it was like, I'm getting free music CDs. I had a flashback to the time where, buy one 8-track, we'll send you 400 of them for just 9 cents a month. Remember those kind of ads? So I thought it was for the rock band. But no, this was an email asking if I was interested in achieving Nirvana. Right? Would I be interested in climbing to Shambhala? Another cool song, though, when you think about it, but this had nothing to do with the music. This was all about higher consciousness, spiritual evolution. They were offering, I think the email said something like, the 8 steps to enlightenment. And it still fascinates me, as you know, if you've been listening to the show now all these months, it fascinates me that there are a set of people, not you and me, not people currently challenging themselves, going in and bringing out their all-natural being, but people that just want to throw humanity under the bus. They want to throw themselves under the bus. They want to stick in the rat race. They want to believe that it's always about tomorrow, never about today. So, oh yeah, my life isn't good enough, I want nirvana. Oh yeah, my life isn't good enough, I want to be enlightened. Oh yeah, my life just sucks. So, I want mindfulness. I'm going to meditate to get something else. And what grates on my nerves about that very thing is the number of people that fall for the belief that there's something wrong with them already. But when they achieve X, when they get X, when they hunt down X, and they have X, then I'll be happy, then I'll be successful, then I'll be fulfilled. Well, what you'll be successful at is always hunting the next X, whatever that X is. So, if the garden of the mortals isn't nirvana to you, if the garden of the mortals, where you and I wake every day, if that's not Shambhala to you, if this isn't the Garden of Eden, the Garden of the Eden, if this isn't it, if this stage in your life isn't enlightened enough for you, if this level of consciousness isn't a high enough level of consciousness for you, if your current spiritual elevation isn't elevated enough for you, the only place to look is within. But we always want to buy into this craziness. We always want to buy into this byline that as human beings, we're defective in some way. And again, other than a little bit of amnesia, other than a little bit, maybe of distraction. Do I think the people that think this way are diseased? No, I think they're distracted. And I think society, I think that certain aspects of the media, or just life itself, fate itself, does everything it can to distract us. But whatever level of consciousness you're at, you're there. Whatever level of enlightenment you're at, God love you. Be thrilled with the fact that you're still here to be at whatever level you find yourself at. Don't fall for the snake oil. Don't fall for, if you just do this, you'll be happier. If you just do this, you'll be more successful. You'll be more fulfilled. You'll reach nirvana, right? It's my sense that you're already there. So, the list of things that grate me, grate on me, that just tick me, tweak me, maybe that's a better word, that tweak me a little bit. Everyone trying to sell you some magic bag of tricks. But all natural being is about recognizing the nirvana within, the higher consciousness within, the enlightenment within, the Shambhala within, the Garden of Eden within. It's in us. And anytime someone tries to convince us to look outside of ourselves, you got to watch your back. And that, I guess we should have saved that. I'm sorry, you know what I mean? I'm a little distracted. I'm trying to pay attention to what's going on around me. A little distracted this morning. Let's talk about distractions. But that's one of the things that grates on me about self-help industry tacticians armed with their self-help industry tactics is I think you're fantastic already. And that's why I always say that my gig is to champion who you already are, because I think that's spectacular. I think that's pretty special. I absolutely believe it's unique. I absolutely believe that you're a rare breed. I absolutely believe that you're a superhuman, that you're a metahuman, and that your all-natural being is just waiting for you to call your soul off the sidelines. All right, something else I want to kick around this morning, and thank you for the, it's almost like a driving stream of consciousness here as we're doing the show. How is it that we become so accustomed to common sense, to the latest fad, the next big thing? Because ultimately, one of the keys to selling ourselves short is believing in common sense instead of our own intuition. Believing in the next big thing. Like you're not the next big thing. Believing in the latest fad. A fad. I wish I knew what the origin of the word fad was. Fad. I don't know what that is. Text me if you get a chance, so I'll know, and we'll do it tomorrow. 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL. Doing a little bit of time traveling here this morning. It's a little surreal to be telling you to text me knowing that by the time you hear this, I'll be on set recording a commercial. So a little bit of time traveling of myself this morning, which I normally don't like to do. But the latest fad, all these different things designed to pull us outside of who we already are, to pull us outside of our all-natural being. So when did you and I get hooked? Because that's the big mental health crisis. We're always talking about mental hygiene. That's the greatest mental health crisis that we have going on right now. If it's true that 60% of the people in college are depressed, if you believe that story from last week, if you believe that they say 60 or more percent of the population at any given time displays some of the signs of being depressed, how do we get that way? How does that become? How have we abandoned our mental hygiene and replaced it with a mental health crisis? Because we stopped digging our own roots. Well, and that's almost a double entendre in that we've stopped digging our own roots, digging who we truly are, and we've stopped digging our own roots, digging down into the moment to be able to handle whatever the labyrinth throws at us. So the mental health crisis comes because we're constantly looking outside of ourselves. So I guess instead of fight or flight, you could call it plight, P-L-I-G-H-T. You could call it plight or flight, where people are like, oh, this is my plight. It's brutal. I can't do this, so let me get out of here. If that's true, what about having a human mind dropped in the garden of the mortals? What about that makes something makes it something that you and I, or our family, or our friends, or our loved ones that are depressed at whatever level, what makes that something that we should try to flee? Plight or flight? When did we come to look at it that way? When does it become common sense to always be looking for something outside of ourselves? Only you know. I got an email the other day. Someone says, well, you're really lucky with everything you've been able to pull off. You're really lucky. And I look around and go, I'm lucky. Okay. And then I thought about it. Luck. What is it about me that makes me lucky? And instead of the initial thought is to go ahead and kind of beat the back and go, it has nothing to do with luck. I've worked pretty hard, blah, 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 blah. I believe, as my grandfather used to say, luck won't find you on the couch. I believe of life in the labyrinth, that at every turn there's something for me to figure out if I'm just smart enough, if I'm just open enough, if I'm just attentive enough to see the clues, I'll be able, right? I know that's part of being an ex-cop, but I'll be able to figure out what the universe is saying to me right now in this moment in all of time. So I guess to a certain degree, they were damn right. I am lucky. I was lucky to stumble across this one thing. That when it comes to fate trying to derail me, I'm always going to be ready to out-monster the monster. And that every turn, I'm going to do what I can to beat back fate. That no matter what fate does, I'm going to navigate again. So I guess in that regard, and hopefully the person that sent me this email is listening to the show. Hopefully, in that regard, you can see that maybe that was lucky. Because I didn't have to stumble across that as an operating system. I didn't have to stumble across that as a strategy. When people say, well, you don't do much in terms of goal setting, what do you got? And I go, I got an attitude. I got a strategy. I got a way of looking at life. So maybe I am lucky to have stumbled across the things that I hope to share with you each and every time on All Natural Being. So maybe they're right. You're damn right I'm lucky. Because other people don't want to out-monster the monster. They're busy saying, why me? Why me? Why me? Why did this happen to me? And for you and I, have you ever done this? When something like that happens, instead of saying, why me? You go, well, why not me? You're not going to derail me. You're not going to knock me off. You're not going to knock me down. So why not me? When the absolute worst around us closes in, and other people that have decided not to channel their all-natural being, other people are saying, why me? Why me? Why does this always happen to me? I say, why not me? Imagine that fate, little visualization. Everyone wants to visualize today. How about this for a little visualization? Imagine fate as a competitor. Imagine if you're an Olympic swimmer. Let's say Michael Phelps. If you're an Olympic swimmer, Katie Ledecky. Let's say you're an Olympic swimmer. You look at your competition as those that push you. We talked about the gold medal winning 400 by 4 by 100 relay team, U.S. female athletes. And when they were disqualified because they dropped the baton, accidentally dropped the baton, were hit by another runner, they were told, oh, wait a minute, you're not disqualified, we'll let you run later in the day. And the big concern when that happened was that there wasn't going to be anyone else around them, right? Like, we talked about this last week, I believe. Lane 1 was open, they were in lane 2, lanes 3 for 8 open. So in this race, they were like, are they going to be able to push themselves? Is it going to be freaky? Not running against competition. Well, in those moments, when fate raises up and does what it can to beat us back, when it does what it can to derail us, what if we looked at it just like they did and go, fate is there to challenge me. Fate is there to push me. Fate is kind of a tag team partner in a way. And that fate, not unlike the 4 women that morning, they loved the competition. They wanted the people in the first lane and lanes 3 through 5. If they could have won it straight up, I bet they never would have worried. Never would have even given it a second thought about running that relay without fate right alongside of them. Fate, those other teams that could have kept them from the medal round. So in those moments, instead of you and I saying, why me, why did this happen to me? We can look in the mirror and go, why not me? Fate's looking for a great challenger. Michael Phelps, I bet he loves being in the pool with people that push him to be his very best, that are almost as good as him. Well, what if in this thought experiment, what if fate is that way? What if fate throws it at you because it wants the challenge? Fate's like, I'm tired of knocking, this one or that one off their perch. She looks pretty tough. He looks pretty tough. I think I'll go after that one. And again, it's just a thought experiment. It worked out pretty good for Einstein. But what if that's the case? What if you and I can look at fate? What if we decide to look at fate as a competitor, and a competitor wants other top-notch competitors to go against? So when everyone else is saying, why me? Why couldn't you and I just say, why not me? Think of those situations in your life. You got any? Give me a text, 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL. Another thing I was thinking about, another email. People say, well, how do you get to the point where you don't take everything personally? You hear motivational speakers saying all the time, oh, you can't take it personal. You can't take it personal. Well, I say you ought to take it personal. When fate challenges you in that way, I say you ought to take it personal. Now, I can remember way back when, from my days in the military, when after I got out of basic training, after I got out of the military police academy, after I got out of the civilian police academy for that matter, and people would say, how did you get through it? I hear there's all kinds of screaming. They threaten you with this. They say things about your mom or your dad maybe. They do whatever they can. All the yelling, screaming, carrying on. They do whatever they can to get under your skin. And I had made it a habit of saying, well, you just can't take it personally. You have to know that if it weren't you standing there, they'd be screaming the same thing at someone else. So you can't take it personally. And it was only years later that I realized that when you cultivate an all-natural thickness to your skin, there's nothing wrong with taking it personally. I take every challenge from fate personally. Because if I take it personally, then I know I have to channel my all-natural being. And it's the same with you. So when someone says, you can't take it personal, for just 20 minutes a day, 1/72nd of your day, try this and see if it doesn't work. Instead of saying, why me? And then listening to someone say, you just can't take that personal. That's the way the universe works. That's the way life is. What if you were to say, why not me? I'm absolutely going to take this affront personally. And then when I take it personally, I know I can marshal the troops. I can rise to the challenge. I'll tap my all-natural being. I'm going to grab fate, and I'm going to kick the crap out of it. Ever have a situation where you feel that way? What'd you do about it? Did you rise to the challenge? Did you run head on into the labyrinth? Or just sit in the corner and ask, why me? Why me? So my thought process on it is the sun comes up. The sun's coming up. It's beautiful here this morning, coming up. I'm heading west, so the sun's coming up behind me. Beautiful backlight Instead of being one of the ones that takes a time out in the Garden of the Mortals, why not say, why not me? Be able to look at fate and say, is that all you brought? That you and I could take those challenges personally. I said earlier, and I think it's a movie clip, I don't remember where I heard it, but I love the term out-monster the monster. Woody Harrelson was one of the actors in the movie. It was a trailer. I don't see many movies anymore, but what was in the trailer, you got to out-monster the monster. Well, all you and I can do is when we take it personally, when we go, well, me, that's what you're going to do. And you promise yourself that you will out-navigate fate, that you will never give fate. And here's the key to the 20-second victory. Breathe in, exhale, scan your situation, take action. Here's the key to the best acronym. No matter what happens, promise yourself, you will always make the last move. No matter what fate does, you're going to out-navigate fate because you're going to make the next move. And then you're going to challenge it to make its next move, knowing that fate's final move will never be your final move. Right? Because it's fate's gig. It's fate's job to challenge you. And when you take it personally, you have to decide, are you up for the challenge? And when you tap into your all-natural being, when you channel your inner metahuman, when you channel your inner superhuman, you're saying, I'm absolutely up for the challenge. We talked before about timing. This is it. In all of time, this is it. Very next time, fate challenges you. That's the timing you and I are waiting on. Because in that instant, when fate's like, oh, he'll be a broken record, he's going to cave. Fate's like, oh, she's done this before, don't worry, we'll be able to knock her off. But then we go, enough. And when fate challenges you, you're able to say, I'm up for the challenge. How do you like this move? Well, always a return volley, always a return shot. If it's a game of tennis, you just admit that you're always going to hit that ball back, no matter what happens. And then when you and I do that, as I've said before, when you change the way you look at life, life changes the way it looks at you. Maybe it's like gravity. You ever notice they say as something starts moving faster and faster, the reason that things, you can't travel at the speed of light is the faster you travel, the more mass you gain, the more massive you become. Well, I've kind of find that to be the case when it comes to personal challenges in life, that the closer that you get to running the labyrinth, to bringing your A game, to figuring out the puzzle, closer you get, fate throws in more obstacles. Fate throws in more challenges. Because the closer you get, fate doesn't want us winning. Fate doesn't want us running the labyrinth, bringing our A game. So the closer we get, fate goes into a panic mode and starts throwing everything it can at us. And again, just a thought experiment. Did you ever have that happen to you? Where you're so close to have been able to pull off that particular moment in all of time. And you're like, what else could happen to me? I came up with a term a long time ago, Irish luck, don't believe the hype. Did you ever have that happen to you? Where you're like, oh man, I was so close. And then like 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 dozen things happen to hit all at once. And you're like, you have got to be kidding me. What else could go south on me? Well, that's fate realizing you're up for the game. You are the game. You understand how it works here in the Garden of the Mortals. So that you get as close as you possibly can and then become so massive that it's almost impossible to move at the speed of light. I think that's a great metaphor. Moving at the speed of life. Moving at the speed of life. And when you're getting ready to run the table, fate goes, I'm not standing for this. And that's when all the obstacles come. Which makes me think a little bit about depression. I know we only have a few more minutes here. Another email that I got dealt with depression, how so many people are depressed. And I would offer to you, just hear me out if you would on this, I would offer to you that depression stems from the fact that we forget who we are, we forget where we are, and we forget exactly what it is we plan on doing about it. So let's look at that real quick. When we forget who we are, when we forget that we're one big skin bag of natural resources, when we forget that our spine, our all authentic girth, our grit is as an all natural being, is as a superhuman, as a metahuman. When we forget that we are the great grandchild of the divine, however you define it, Big Bang or Big Breath, whatever you believe, science or religion, you are still a direct descendant of that energy, a fractal of the universe, however you define the universe. You're like a satellite post office. But then the key to depression becomes when we also forget where we are. And when you look at the tragedies in life, when you look at some of the things that happen in and around us, and we go, oh, how could that happen to me? And we buy into this concept, and you've heard me say it before, but we buy into this concept, oh, nature loves you. Just let her wake up this morning and let nature hold you in the palm of her hand, and all will be well. When we forget where we are, when we forget we're in a game, life in the labyrinth is us against fate. And fate will do, with Mother Nature as its entourage, fate will do whatever it can to derail us. And when we forget that, when we forget to take it personally, as we should, when we forget to take it personally, we go, oh, can you believe that happened to me? And instead of taking that as a rallying cry, we just sit in the corner and cry. Instead of taking it, looking at it, and saying, no, I can do this. You're not going to knock me out. You're not going to knock me down. Because that's how we become depressed. We forget we have the tools to win. We forget we are the tools to win. We forget where we are, and by that I mean we forget that we're here to win, and that we also have a competitor who's here to make sure we don't win. But we want to run around this Pollyanna, oh, all is well, I'm an optimist. Everything will always be good. Everything will always be, oh, just what? Just fluffy and everything's great. That's not living in reality. Just look at the natural disasters. Look at the natural disasters. This is in the news today. Hurricanes, typhoons, earthquakes, Zika, forest fires, flooding, soon to be avalanches, the power outages, food shortages, the grids under attack. What part of that is nature coddling you in the palm of her hand? You've probably heard me say before, if nature's got you in her hand, she's trying to get her hands around your throat. But that's nothing to be sad about. That's nothing to be frightened by. That's nothing to be disappointed in. And it's most certainly nothing to be depressed about. So depression, my take, remember, just try this. 20-minute victories. That's the beauty of them. I say just test it out. Test out my theory. That depression is forgetting who you are, where you are, and if we could do a subset of where you becomes who you're up against. Because fate is gunning for you. Mother Nature, gunning for you. It realizes that if we're here, we're busy writing our last words. We're on the verge. If we're here, we're circling the drain. And it's going to do whatever it can to derail us. It's going to do whatever it can. But for those like you that channel your all-natural being, that go, hey, wait a minute. I'm a metahuman. You picked the wrong brawl. And then when you stand and you say, yes, I'm taking this personally. I'm going to kick the crap out of you, fate. I'm going to kick in some doors, and I'm going to end your little run in my life. I'm going to end you constantly trying to derail me. I'm going to end, and ultimately what we realize is we're ending our time in depression. We're ending our time in the little self-pity party that we have. Oh, can you believe this happened to me? Well, if it happened to you, it's because you're to stand and challenge it. Whatever that may be. So let me ask you, what are some situations in your life where fate has taunted you and you stood up for the challenge? You stood up for yourself. No more self-pity. No more pity parties. What happened? How did it turn out? 331-684-7685, 331-684-SOUL, S-O-U-L. And again, because this show is taped, I'll be getting these in between takes this morning when I'm shooting the commercial. But please, let me know. What's an example of how you rose and you said to fate, yeah, you picked the wrong girl. Am I allowed to say girl? You picked the wrong guy. Guys and girls, guys and gals. You picked the wrong woman. You picked the wrong man. You picked the wrong person. You're not going to knock me off. I am taking this personally. Because all the people that say to you, oh, don't take it personal. All the people trying to talk you out of this moment, all the self-help industry tactics, they do because they're allied with fate. Just one other thing to call you off your pedestal. So when I say, well, what's my gig? I'm here to champion you at every turn. I'm here to leave you on the pedestal. I'm simply suggesting you may, from time to time, which is why I say, even when you're not, I'm your biggest fan. I think you've forgotten that you're on a pedestal. I think you've forgotten who you ultimately are in those times, in those what we call our weak moments. Weak moments are all about amnesia. Weak moments, we got our back piled up with blind spots. Outside of those weak moments, when you do take fate by the throat, to quote Beethoven. I just love that line, don't I? I probably use that once or twice a week. Beethoven says, I will grab fate by the throat. I'm in. When was the last time you grabbed fate by the throat and said, nah, not this time, not this occurrence, not to this person? You really did. Pick the wrong guy. Pick the wrong girl. Do you have an example? I'm here to suggest that although fate begins to throw more roadblocks at us, the closer we get to spiritual fulfillment, the closer we get to success, the closer we get to tapping our all-natural happiness. I'm here to suggest that it happens because fate's trying to beat Michael Phelps in the pool. Fate does it because it wants to win the game that is your life. Fate wants to make a labyrinth. It's like it gets street cred if it makes a labyrinth that's impossible for you and I to get through. And again, if you don't like the thought experiment, you're welcome not to use it. You're welcome not to use it. All I would ask, if you don't mind, if you could cut me a little bit of slack, and that slack would be cut me 20 minutes of your day out to just try this. For 1/72nd of your day, remember who you are. Remember where you are, and a part of where that are is just who the hell is fighting against you. And then ask yourself, what am I going to do about it? I'm unbeatable. You can't mess with me. Unless I decide to tap out. Unless I decide to be a co-conspirator. Unless I decide to let you treat me like a pincushion. Minus that decision, you and I, we're not going to lose. That's the beauty of your all-natural being, is that you are unbreakable. You are untouchable. And fate knows it. All right, again, let me apologize. I think we're getting pretty close here to wrapping. I apologize again for the audio quality, and I apologize again that it isn't a live show. I really like it when you can text in. I have a lot more fun. We've got some cool things coming next week. A big, long webinar tomorrow teaching me how to do all this video stuff. So I really am trying to get better at it every day. But I also want to challenge you before I run. I also want to challenge you. Let a mediocre life, let a watered-down life, let that be for other people. Don't settle. Don't call it a draw. Because when we call it a draw, fate wins. And I don't know about you, although I have a pretty good sense if you hang out with me on the show. I don't know about other people, but for you and I, we're not here to lose. We're not here to call it a draw. We're not here to settle. No matter what fate pulls at you and I, no matter what it tries, no matter what redirection, no matter what it does, we only lose if we surrender to it. We only lose if we surrender to it. So don't join the rat race where it goes, that's all, I can't take it personal. Crap happens. Dad, what are you going to do? Just sit there and take your licks. Don't join the rat race. Don't sell yourself short. Because we only get beat up when we sell ourselves short. Fate, nature, all of this. Nature is a bully. And if you don't believe it, you haven't spent any time in it. Nature is a bully. And bullies are counting on you to sell yourself short. Fate is counting on you to sell yourself short. Don't sell yourself short. And then when fate raises the game, because you've raised your game, never pass the buck. That's for mediocre people. That's for the watered-down souls. It's not for you. When you take it personal, and you go, you must have overslept this morning, Fate, because you didn't bring your A game today. You're coming after the wrong person. Well, a tough weekend, was it? Did you stay out too late? Fate, well, you haven't had your cup of coffee yet. You're not firing on all cylinders yet today. Because if you think that little attempt to derail me is going to work, you are just not yourself today, Fate. And that's my challenge for you. No matter what happens today, no matter what happens, if you get a TV commercial, I've never done this before, so I'm trying, right, to record a show, driving down the road. I'm trying to ad-lib, so if it seems that I belabored a point a little more, I apologize this morning. But the main point is this: never surrender. Never take it in the teeth. Never let anyone poke you in the chest. Your chest wasn't meant to be poked. Your shoulders were meant to be squared. Don't give in to bullies, whoever they are. And most certainly, don't give in to the bully that is fate. Because it's counting on you to surrender. It's counting on it. And I, for one, and I suspect like you, I'm not going to make fate's job, I'm not going to make fate's life any easier. Welcome to the jungle. Fate wants to play the game, let's do it. I'm not backing down. And I suspect you're not either. All right, I think we're getting close to time. Guys, again, I'm super sorry that it had to unfold this way, but thanks for hanging out with me. If you did, if not, well, then you wouldn't hear this anyway. So, and please also remember, if you have some friends, if you have other people that you think are having a tough time, just ask them to listen to this particular episode and go, ignore the audio qualities, driving down the highway, ignore this, ignore that. But depression comes directly because of our amnesia. Share this show with them and let them know, you ought to just listen to this. 20 minutes, 1/72nd of the day. Maybe you replay this show for yourself. 1/72nd of your day. It's all it's going to take. And then I promise you, fate is going to look at you differently. The next time you square your shoulders, it's going to look you in the face. And it's going to be able to see it in your eyes that it picked the wrong person to start a brawl with. All right, love you guys. I'm going to get out of here. A special thanks to Matt editing in the open and closing audio. And I look forward to seeing you. I will be live. I'm hoping I will be live tomorrow morning for sure. Thank you so very much. Get out there. Bring your own bold. Tell fate where to go.
You've been listening to All Natural Being with Brian Brawdy.
Join us live every Monday through Friday, 7 to 8 a.m. Eastern.
Also, check us out around the clock at allnaturalbeing.com.
Until then, always remember to bring your own bold.
IPMNation.com.